Hey everybody, welcome back to the RGR Football Channel on YouTube. My name is Daniel Harms. Today we are finally going to get into the Joshua Kaindoh breakdown. And I want to start off by saying I didn't have access to a lot of the All 22 for him. So what I did was I took clips of All 22 from a couple different games that I had access to, and then I went through and I watched some of the broadcast footage to really try to corroborate what I found on the film. So it's going to be a lot of the same game, him doing different things, but also things that matched up what I saw in the broadcast view from what I could from what I could tell. So this is all going to change going from Florida State to Kansas City, and that's to be expected. He was not a stat collector in college. He was really underutilized in what he can do. He wasn't asked to do a whole lot of stunting, which he probably will be asked to do in Kansas City. Yeah, he was asked to stunt there, but I think he was asked more really to beat guys one on one and just kind of go at it. He wasn't taught much from the technical aspect. Didn't see a whole lot of processing during pass rush snaps. So let's go ahead and get into the breakdown really quickly because I think that, yeah, we're going to see a lot of the good things that he does, but I think we're also going to kind of notice some areas where he definitely needs to address. And I hope that the new cursor helps you guys follow it around. I hope I'm finally able to get something you guys can see when I'm not drawing on the screen. So we're going to see Kaindoh down here at the bottom of the formation in an actual 3-point stance here. So I just want to start off by showing you guys one of the better things that I really found that he does, and it's widening to the side of the running back. You often see a lot of flare routes from the running backs coming out of the backfield, even wheel routes to that example, get the ball out quickly to those running backs. And one thing that he's always done very well is widen to them. And this is just being in the right place at the right time. He makes the interception here, but again, widening as the running back comes out of the backfield just enough while keeping your eye on the quarterback is enough to be usable in some coverage aspects because they're going to ask him, I would imagine, to do some of that, maybe a very, very small majority of the time. But even on plays like this one where he widens to the side of the running back, takes a step initially at the mesh point as it would be, but again, coming back to that spot with the running back is for a guy his size to be able to almost match speed with Michael Carter. He's not a hugely fast guy, 4.5-ish guy, but again, you're coming straight line speed down the sideline here to the sideline, and he's able to keep up with him stride for stride. And finding the football in that aspect is something that I've noticed that he really does excel at in terms of the widening process to get to the running back. Now we're going to get a little bit to his pass rush right there. And I think that one of the things that you really like to see from Kaindoh is this is probably his go-to, the slap, the rip, or the punch, slap, rip area right there. He rips up through with his left arm, keeps hitting with his right hand inside here. Again, keeping a bit square to the quarterback eyes here while the tackle's really in a bad position. But he's not the bendiest guy. As you can see, he's still kind of upright here. And again, he just gets enough to the quarterback. But at the end of the day, you're affecting the pass game. The Chiefs clearly do want more sacks. That's why they went to get a guy who does not have the sack production, but has a lot of the traits to become a possible guy that can probably get maybe double-digit sacks. It really depends on his development and some advancements in areas that he doesn't have right now. And like I said, this is probably his go-to pass rush move, that slap right there at the left hand of the tackle to get underneath and move them in a better place for him, because if he gets widened a little bit and upfield a little bit more, that's where you're going to see some of the real issues in his game, because he loses some balance here. But again, affecting the quarterback, this probably should have been more of a catch in my opinion. But again, able to get to the quarterback, make him throw the football maybe a half second before he wants to. That's really what you want to do. Now you see Kaindoh down here on the right side of the formation. I want you guys just to look at this really quick, because as a defensive end, you're here. This is the center, obviously. Now they're asking a tight end to block a defensive end. That should always be an indication that they don't respect you in some way, shape, or form. And I think this is one of those areas that you get to see Kaindoh actually like take advantage of that, because he's probably not going to get a whole lot of upfield push right away in the NFL. But this is one of those areas that you really like to see him extend, long arm and just throw him into the backfield again, affecting the pass even just a little bit. I think is really all you're looking for from Kaindoh, from the being blocked by a tight end in a pass protection situation. The long arm is not something he uses very often as well. I don't think he has that upper body extension consistency to be able to really use it against a tackle. But again, he utilizes it against lesser competition, running backs, tight ends, and he is able to really get some movement there. You get it right underneath that chest plate right there, and you can really do some damage against a tight end or someone who's not, you have the leverage situation. And that's something that he understood there. He was able to get his arm underneath inside those shoulder pads and really move him off balance using leverage against the tight end. Again, something you really like to see from a developmental prospect. He's definitely not a guy coming in going to be able to play right away in terms of getting production early. He's not going to get many tackles for losses unless the training staff gets a hold of him. They just open up a whole different thing, a world for him. That's really going to be what this comes down to. He's on the left side over here. He did play both left and right side. He played up in a 2-point stance. He played in 3-point stance and a 4-point stance. His best work did come from, the 3 or 4 point stance where he can get more explosion in his lower half. So, but this is really what you like to see him utilize different things. And again, leaping to the quarterback, maybe not the best idea there. He's still trying to figure out what works best for him. This is what I want to see him do more in the NFL, actually, because if you can see right there, first off, the tackle is in a very poor position. So you're leaning, you have 1 foot back, and you can see that Kaindoh is actually in a much better position. He's got his left knee leveraged underneath him, so you have shoulder, toe. So he's actually got a much better position to actually extend now because you have the tackle leaning out in front, and now you can initiate that leverage advantage that you have as a much more aligned defender here. And that's something that he needs to understand a bit more of and see in this particular situation that he does well. Right there, throws him off. As you can see now, you have this left leg of the tackle stuck in the ground, which is how you can get a lot of that movement. Because when your feet stop moving as a tackle, particularly when you're engaged with somebody like that, they now have all the leverage advantage they can use, especially when he's got inside the shoulders, inside the chest there. He can now extend, he can shove you, he can move you, he can do a lot of things that give him the advantage in this one-on-one rep here. And obviously now your feet are extremely wide. Again, you're pretty 100% locked in as Kaindoh here. He's doing a very good job of staying square and using his extension well. Again, that's something that I really like to see him use in the next level. Look at the separation he creates too. Like, this is in and of itself a very impressive rep against any tackle, really, when you're able to generate this much separation to allow you to get underneath something that you're not very good at as cornering that Kaindoh is. He's able to create enough separation from himself here that he can now get to the quarterback. So he just comes around. That tackle had no idea where it was going. So here, you need to stay on your feet. And now I'm not entirely sure if he trips. No, he just kind of trips over his own foot and then ends up falling at the quarterback. He ends up getting that ball out anyway. But again, like, you want to see him close on the quarterback here. When you create that much separation, get a free run at him, you need to stay on your feet and close to him. And that's an area, unfortunately, where Kaindoh does not have the best attributes. His balance is not great. But again, that rep right there, you can see it working all together. He engages, he gets underneath really the leverage point of that tackle. He extends, creates separation, and then corners because he has more room to move. So definitely an area that he's got some potential, but it's all about working it to come together. You need to use more use your weapons at your own advantage multiple different ways so tackles don't start to read you. If you're always doing that rip, the chop, and everything, they're going to read what that is. And they're just going to get in front of you and force you to the outside and make you come upfield and bend. So again, using more extensions, more ghost techniques, more outside inside techniques, that's really going to help him evolve as a pass rusher. Now, this is really where one of the areas that I think that he struggles with on a consistent basis. And it's you're going to see it right away because yeah, he's got to locate the football, and then he unfortunately goes underneath the tackle here, and it's an area that shows up on his tape quite a bit in terms of locating the football. Now, this is just a it's just a stretch to the outside. So this is a zone play to the outside zone essentially. So you have everyone block down, block down, block down, block down, block down. As a defensive end, when you see this coming at you, you know one thing. You have to know that it's an outside zone an outside zone run play. So you need to set the edge. You need to not allow the running back to get outside. You want to force him back inside to where everyone really should be pursuing, right? So that's what you want to do. This is, like I said, it's something that he does a lot in terms of coming underneath. And right here, you can see the extension, which is good. This right here is good, what you want to see. Now, again, you see, let's see, point out here, this defensive player here. He's doing exactly what he needs to do to get into this B gap, okay? So your job is this defensive tackle you're trying to get here. This center is just trying to block you down to give you a better position here. Linebacker is doing a good job filling here. Now, this all looks good until you dip underneath here. You give this tight end a free release to this linebacker, and in essence, you're opening up this gap here. That's really what you're doing. You have to set this edge, and you have to keep this edge firm. It's something we saw Mike Dana do last year very, very well in terms of setting a hard edge and forcing running backs to have to go inside to make progress. If you can funnel running backs to the linebackers, it makes their job easier so they're not having to chase all the way down the sideline. If you let them get to the edge in the NFL, guess what's going to happen? They're going to turn these just outside zone plays into 10, 15, 20, they might even take it to the house type of gains. So you have to be able to establish that edge. Can't be jumping underneath unless you 100% see this running back coming here. Since his shoulders are still to the sideline, you can't be coming up underneath. Again, like I said, it creates that gap. Now, unfortunately, because Marvin Wilson is such an animal, he gets around both blocks and is in this gap. Otherwise, guess what? Michael Carter's coming up here, and it's smooth sailing. So an area where he does struggle is finding the football and reading the running back as it's happening. And that's just kind of a consistent littering in his tape is him coming underneath or not setting a hard enough edge and just basically letting the running back outside. So definitely an area he needs to work on. And in this specific system, we saw Mike Dana last year come in and do that well. We actually saw Colin Saunders in his first season improve as a run defender. So that's something that I have optimism that he's going to be able to come in, get coached up by, Daly and the rest of the defensive line staff and really get that under his belt because he has the frame. He's got the strength to be able to do it. You just got to be able to work at that. It's really more of a mindset thing to get to the outside and set that edge. He's, like I said, he's got some issues cornering, and that's going to be something that comes up on tape a lot in the NFL. You're going to see it a lot in terms of what tackles are going to want to do. So slow it down. So you're going to see the first step is inside and then coming back outside because now that you didn't do a whole lot here, you're in a better position. Your head's now looking at the quarterback. But there's again that slap rip. Again, like I mentioned earlier in this video, if you start to do the same things over and over again, you're going to clue the tackle into what you want to do. So he comes inside, comes back to the outside. The tackle doesn't really have to do anything here because now his shoulders are with the defensive end. You can run him upfield. You know that he can't corner very well. He doesn't have great balance. So that's all you have to do. Yeah, Howell pulls this down and starts to run because that's the kind of quarterback he is. But any other quarterback can just step up in this pocket and the tackle rides you to the ground. So that's an area he desperately needs to work on. You don't have to be the best athlete to corner. You have to have the balance because if you can get your shoulder on, just dip it a little bit and keep your feet under you, you're going to cause more damage because not only are you going to force them to step up in the quarterback step up in the pocket, you're going to be able to close when they don't. And what you saw there is just him falling to the ground, which is obviously not ideal for a defensive end trying to close on the quarterback in a passing situation. Obviously, moving everybody up inside the pocket for guys like Chris Jones and now Jerron Reed are going to be able to get inside and get interior pressure. So now you're really causing a twofold problem when you're creating this outside pressure. That cornering thing is going to have to come along. It's definitely an area that he can improve at a little bit, but athletically, he is a little bit, I guess I would say, not very athletically inclined in terms of, cornering. So, and one other thing that we're going to talk about right here, that his pass rush plan needs some absolute work. It's kind of apparent on reps like this. You can see him down here. When you just get stuck and you don't really know what to do, you can see that he kind of loses his head sometimes. He gets to the tackle on the outside here, kind of shimmies a little bit, puts his right hand into the chest a little bit, and then fakes like he's gonna, doesn't even fake, but he just kind of like turns over slightly. It's not fast. There's no ice pick with his left elbow. There's nothing. He's not doing anything with the spin. It's just a just a half-assed attempt to do this, and then he gets laid on his back, because that's what happens when you half-ass things in the NFL, especially at college too. Like, you're going to get put into situations where you're going to get put on your butt a lot, and this is just one of those things where you have to be more developed as a pass rusher. If he's coming upfield that much, dart inside. Don't do a spin. You need to dart inside, because there's always going to be guys coming around for you, especially if it's only a four-man rush. They're going to have someone as a watcher. So he's coming upfield a lot. You got to be able to dictate this. So you want to attack to the outside and rip to the inside. Look at this much space that's created right here. You have to be able to use that to your advantage. And that's where the pass rush plan comes into. When you're able to counter and get to your counters quickly, that's when you can come back to the inside and actually create pressure on the quarterback. That's something that his film showed a lot of as well, is that he doesn't always get to his counters as quickly. So if one thing doesn't work, he's slower to get to a swim, or he's slower to get to an outside versus inside movement like this we're seeing here. He doesn't do that spin quickly enough, and obviously this guard right here has his eyes right on this part, so he was able to get to there quickly. But as you see this come around here, look at all, like I said, look at all of this space. Like, that's a huge amount of space you could fit multiple rushers into. So again, identifying, adjusting your pass rush plan in motion is definitely something he has to work on. It's an issue, and it's going to get him laid out like this multiple times in the NFL if he continues to do that half-assed spin. He does like the spin move, and sometimes it works. Very few times it works. More often it doesn't, and he ends up just getting stonewalled. So you have to work that ice pick motion, because you have to be fast enough to get that on the outside, rib area of the tackle to be able to get by him. So that's what you want to see. So here's Kaindoh down here, and I really like his effort. He's a very high effort energy player, and we've already heard the Chiefs talk about his high energy character. He definitely is. And again, this is more about consistently working to the quarterback, because he, again, jab, slap, look to rip. It's going to work a lot for tackles that aren't high caliber. So that's why he continued to do it. And it's, like I said, it's something he does get stuck on. And right here, it's all about that turn. You can affect the quarterback this way. You can affect the quarterback. But again, you have to be able to close. And unfortunately, when you're ripping underneath like that and you get stuck in the tackle nose, that's what you're trying to do. It's not always going to work out for you. But again, affecting the quarterback, forcing him to bring the ball down like that right there. He gets hit, and then they get the sack. So it works for this aspect. And you actually see this a lot if you can force your legs when you're being taken outside to dig in against that tackle and not get driven up the field. You're going to start to improvise different ways to get free. And that's, unfortunately, he was really kind of held up around the neck area there, but it's something that he can work on. And I think that they're definitely going to help him at the next level. Maybe using this as a ghost technique, fake that jab and dip under, is something that he can probably add to his repertoire if, he's willing to work at not letting himself get into a rhythm with that jab and then or slap and rip, because that's, like I said, it's going to get you beat a lot. Right, so here's Kaindoh on this side, the right side again. And one thing that I really like about him is that, again, like I said, the high energy, but he always finds a way to impact the game, the passing game. He's not, like I said, he was not the most productive guy, but this is what I was mentioning earlier with finding a way to counter inside. You have to be able to in the NFL. Something we've seen with Frank Clark is when he's only moving into the outside and he's not getting to the inside, he's not creating any pressures, he's not creating sacks, he's not doing enough. And that's been an issue. It was an issue last year, in my opinion. And I think that this, if you can add this to all of the defensive ends the Chiefs have, it's going to be a productive way to not only create negative plays, but it's going to be a way to affect passing situations. Teams are going to constantly be trying to catch up to the Chiefs, so you have to be able to create pressure. You have to be able to get pressure with your front four, with your defensive ends, with your defensive tackle. So here you can see Kaindoh again in a pretty good position. You have really the tackle's a little square up here, not exactly the height of what you want to be, and he's kind of doing this and holding himself up here. Now, one thing that Kaindoh finally realizes here is that he's going to move with him to the outside. So if he can engage a little bit and push him up backwards upfield this way, he can knife back inside, which is that next level understanding of the pass rush. Here's the push, and then he gets inside. Yeah, he doesn't finish his play because Howell's a good athlete. He gets outside the pocket, but that's the kind of thing you want to see. It's all about that mental reminder to say, look, I can do this. I've been doing this all game. If I can push him upfield, that creates that separation between him and the guard, and I can get inside. So there's a lot of tools with Kaindoh, and I think that you can do a lot of things to harness what he does well and put him in positions to be successful on this defense. He's definitely going to be a rotational player early. He has a lot of learning to do. But again, the stuff that we saw in this video really kind of shows you he has multiple tools in the bag. He needs to work on the plan and really setting that edge in the run game. And I think that's going to make him more of an every down type of player instead of a guy you bring in pass rush situations. Because right now, I think he's a much better pass rusher than he is a run defender. So he would be someone you bring in on third downs to give maybe Frank Clark a breather or things like that. So he's definitely not a guy who's going to come in to the NFL and be a starter. But I think with all the tools that we've seen, his functional strength, his effort, those are things that the Chiefs value at defensive end. He's definitely bigger. He's got the length and he's got the size to play. So you figure all these things out, he's going to be someone that you can actually work in this defense and can possibly be something more. Again, the Chiefs did a lot of that with, K-Pass. He never developed that pass rush acumen. That was never something that was part of his game very much. So they kind of have to do a better job with Kaindoh, in my opinion, to get that out of him. I think he has more upside than K-Pass did because he's actually a better athlete. He's got more tools at his disposal right now. So that's really all this comes down to, is harnessing that and really making the best out of the player that you have. I think that Kaindoh is going to be a good player in the NFL. I really do. And it really, like I said, it comes down to the training staff and the defensive line coaching, getting him in there now, like they're doing with OTAs right now, and learning all of these things at a higher speed and getting his brain to that point where he can move things around as they're happening, so he can adjust, snap in and snap out. That's really what it comes down to. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys have any questions on Kaindoh, or if I can help clarify anything else for you, just let me know in those comments section. Make sure that you guys are asking questions if you have any, and I'm going to be getting to Trey Smith after this, so look forward to that. I appreciate you guys' support, and it's a great day to be a Chiefs fan. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.